Welcome back to the channel, guys, and our first of many of this type of video. Today we're going to be playing Pokemon FireRed as if we were Team Rocket from the anime. That is Jesse, James, and Meowth. The following are the rules for today's challenge. The first rule is that we must use and catch every Pokemon that Jesse and James caught in the show, and at the exact same time if possible. So we're going to have to rough estimate a few of these. Rule number 2, we must use the moves their Pokemon are seen using in the show. Unless they have less than 4, then we can pick one that makes sense for that time. Rule number 3, we must try our best to estimate the level of each Pokemon based on the moves used in the show, moves they have not yet used, or evolutions that are going to happen. Rule number 4, our battle style is going to be on set, and gym battles are going to be fair fights. That is, if the gym leader has 2, we have 2 just to match anime rules. And rule number 5, no held items or items used in battle other than an Everstone when I need to stop evolutions that shouldn't happen yet. To start off this challenge, we're going to catch an Ekans, a Koffing, and a Meowth because those are the Pokemon that Team Rocket has when we first see them in the anime. As you can see in the clips, Koffing uses Smokescreen and Smog before the first gym, and I think Meowth uses Fury Swipes. Ekans doesn't really use any moves, but those are going to give us hints on what level they should be when we take on the first gym. So this is the team we're going to go into the first gym with. Meowth is only level 10 with Scratch, Growl, and Bite. We could have been 36 because of Fury Swipes, but it just didn't seem fair, so we kept it at level 10. Ekans is also level 10 as it hadn't used Bite yet, so level 10 seems pretty appropriate with Poison Sting, Wrap, and Leer. And Koffing is also level 10. Koffing could have been up to 25 because it used Smokescreen, but again, didn't seem fair for the first gym, so we left it at 10 with Tackle, Poison, Gas, and Smog. So our first gym battle with Brock went pretty decent. I know what you're thinking right now. This guy set some rules and he already broke them, but believe me, I just forgot to put Ekans in the box. We did not use Ekans. We end up leading off with Meowth and just going for Bite a couple of times until the Geodude eventually faints. Not too bad. He then sends in Onix, and instead of trying to get chip damage, I just decide to growl it a bunch of times until we die, hoping that maybe I can lead the way for Koffing to do something. When Koffing comes in, we decide to lead off with the Poison Gas, hoping to get the poison off. Luckily, we do hit, and Onix starts taking damage each turn. Because its attack is so low, it can't really hit us that much, so all we can do really is tackle, chip away damage, and hope that the poison eventually kills him, and finally it does, with still a decent amount of health with Koffing. So first gym, not too bad at all. On to the second gym. Everyone's got similar movesets. We have Koffing at level 23, Sludge, Tackle, Smog, and Poison Gas. We've got Meowth at 23 with Scratch, Growl, Bite, and Payday. And then we've got Ekans at level 23 who knows Bite, Poison Sting, Wrap, and Glare. He can now use Bite since he used Bite at this point in the anime. This battle went really terribly. I tried it a bunch of times at lower levels and I just couldn't beat it. So we are above the traditional level cap, but that isn't the rule for this run. Again, I am supposed to only have 2 Pokemon for this battle, but if you notice in the battle I did not use Meowth, I just forgot to deposit it. But anyways, Koffing takes care of the Staryu and then gets a poison on the Starmie, which is really clutch. Ekans can then come in and hit it with a few bites and just let the poison take it for the win. So honestly, at this level, not that bad. We just needed to grind up a little bit higher. Considering that we could have legitimately used a Meowth at level 36 because of Fury Swipes, I think that we were already way lower than we should have been, so I'll take it as a win. This next part was probably completely unnecessary, but we're trying to be accurate to the timeline. So as you can see in the clip, Team Rocket receives a Magikarp that spontaneously evolves when James kicks it. So we got ourselves a Magikarp, evolved it, and then released it because in the anime, Team Rocket's Gyarados takes out its rage on them and then ends up leaving with all of the other Gyarados. Okay, gym number 3. Not much has changed with the team. Ekans probably could be up to about level 30 because it does use acid right after this gym in the anime, which it learns at 32. But we decided to keep everyone around about 26. So I lead off with Ekans in this one. We go for a few bites on this Voltorb and take it out pretty easily. So 1 down. When the Pikachu comes in, our luck does not quite go as well. This Pikachu is only level 18, but it gets to paralyze on us and then starts to use double team. So we start missing our moves. It hits us with paralyzation and we just can't hit it. So eventually, after another few misses and getting stuck in paralyzation, it takes us out. We decide to go into coughing here. And coughing easily finishes off the Pikachu with a sludge. So we just have Raichu left. When Raichu comes in, it starts to be really annoying with the double team. So it uses it, I think, 2 or 3 times and we miss our first few sludges. But luckily we do hit a sludge finally. And then when he goes for Shockwave, we tank it pretty well. And miraculously we hit a second sludge to take him out. So close fight, but we ended up beating it. Alright, gym number 4. This time we've got all 3 of our Pokemon available to us as it is a 3-on-3 battle. So we've got Coughing at level 29. Coughing evolves into Wheezing pretty soon after this gym, so it makes sense to start getting it closer to 35, but not quite there. Coughing pretty much has the same moveset: Sludge, Tackle, Smokescreen, and Poison Gas. Ekans has used acid in the anime at this point, so it could be up to 32, but we decided just to leave it at 29 as that's where everyone was pretty much at. And then Meowth is still at level 26 with Scratch, Growl, Bite, and Feint Attack, although we cannot use Feint Attack as it didn't use it in the anime. For this battle with Erika, we decide to lead off with Coughing, and she leads off with Victory Bell. Honestly, this fight is pretty long and not very exciting. We get a few sludges off and almost kill her, but she decides to use a Hyper Potion. We are paralyzed, so it is doing some decent damage and kind of getting us stuck here. Eventually, it does get the better of us, but we leave her in yellow health, which isn't too bad. Ekans then comes in and can slowly finish it off with a bite, although we do take some heavy damage and get paralyzed in the process. When Tangela comes in, we get lucky with our Shed Skin and the paralysis goes away. And then we basically just try to hit Poison Sting until the Tangela gets poisoned. For some reason, it's only using Constrict, so we are getting not hit too hard and then we end up taking it out. When the Vileplume comes in, we decide to get the Glare off. Now it is important to note that Ekans had not used Glare until it was an Arbok, and same with Poison Sting, but we're kind of going with the common sense here. If it could have known Acid, it should have had those moves anyways, so they are available to us. Eventually, the Vileplume does take us out, and it's down to Meowth. Luckily, this Vileplume is paralyzed, so all we have to do is go for bites, hopefully get some flinches and some para-hacks, and honestly, Meowth pretty much gets all of them that it could have and doesn't even take any damage. So, 4th gym, pretty easy. Right before the team gets to the 5th gym in the anime, Jesse's Ekans and James's Coughing evolve into Arbok and Wheezing. So we get ours to evolve in-game. They're both around level 36, and this fits the movesets for what they had at the time. So we get our 2 new evolved Pokemon, and we make our way to Fuchsia City. For the battle with Koga, we've got everyone at level 40 this time. Our Arbok has got pretty much the same moves with Bite, Acid, Wrap, and Glare. We've got our Meowth with Scratch, Fury Swipes, Bite, and Screech, and Wheezing with Sludge, Tackle, Smokescreen, and Haze. This battle took a ton of tries. This battle was very frustrating, but I was pretty determined to beat it with this level without over-leveling too much. So we lead off with Meowth and go for a Screech on the Coughing, and then a Fury Swipes, but this Coughing takes us out pretty easily. Our next Pokemon, we send in Wheezing, we get a Sludge off, and because of the lower defense, the Coughing is down. When he goes to send in the Muck, we switch into Arbok and go for a Glare. Basically, the only way that we can beat this is by paralyzing and getting some hacks. So we go back into Wheezing, and we use a Haze to kind of get rid of this minimize that he's doing, which is pretty annoying. Haze actually came in handy here and allowed me to get rid of these stat changes. So we slowly just chip away with Sludge, and he's getting stuck a few times, and then as soon as he uses too much Minimize or Acid Armor, we just hit him with a Haze. So unfortunately he does Super Potion, which makes this battle pretty long, but in the end we do get the better of the Muck. His next Pokemon is another Coughing, so we go back into Arbok and get the Glare off, but this time we keep Arbok in and try to just kill it ourselves. So we get off a Glare and go for some bites. Koga likes to use these items. He's using full heals and hyper potions. He just won't give up, but fortunately Arbok is powerful enough to take it out. For the last Pokemon, Weezing, we hit it with a Glare again, and then we try for a few bites, but this Weezing is pretty powerful, so before we can get the better of it, it takes us out. With the Weezing in red health, we send in our Weezing and go for Sludge a few times, and Koga is finally out of items, and we take the win. As you guys know, in the anime, for the 6th gym, the order wasn't really following the order in the games, so we decided just to keep it normal in the games and make our best guess for the levels. At this point in the run, that's all we can do. So we've got Meowth at 42, and then Weezing and Arbok at 43 with pretty much the same moveset. So for the battle with Sabrina, we start off with Meowth, and basically the key to this battle is getting Meowth to take out as much as possible. It took me quite a few tries to do this battle, but Meowth removing a few of her Pokemon is key. So we get the better of Kadabra with Fury Swipes. For some reason it kept going for Calm Mind instead of hitting us. Same thing happens with the Mr. Mime. It sets up a barrier, which is kind of annoying and makes it take longer, but because Dark type is special in this game, we can avoid the barrier and take it out as well. Third up, she sends in her Venomoth, and Meowth has already put in a lot of work here with not taking any damage. We decide to go for a Screech to lower its defense quite a bit. Unluckily, we do get confused by the Supersonic, but we can break through and hit it with a Fury Swipes. She goes for a Psybeam, which does a decent amount of damage, but luckily we break through that confusion again and hit her with one more Fury Swipes to take her out. So we're down to only one Pokemon, and we've only used Meowth, which is really nice. Alakazam decides to set up a future sight. We go for the Fury Swipes and get a little bit of damage, but it finally takes us out with a Psychic Attack. Next up, we send in Arbok. I figured to try to get a Glare on this thing is the only way we can beat it, by slowing it down. So luckily we hit the Glare, except it's synchronized, makes us paralyzed, and then it immediately takes us out with a Psychic. So I'm pretty worried at this point and thinking that we're going to lose and have to redo it. As we come in with Weezing, we get hit with Future Sight, but Sabrina goes for a full heal, and then we hit our Sludge, and surprisingly it kills Alakazam from that range. So we beat Sabrina and we can move on. Before the team reaches Cinnabar Island, Jesse ends up catching a Lickitung and James ends up catching a Weepinbell off screen. So you can see that in the clips above. The only thing really to note is about James's Weepinbell, which he says he catches off screen and then ends up leaving it at the daycare, and when he gets it back from the daycare, it has evolved into a Victory Bell. We're starting our Victory Bell off with Razor Leaf because we know it uses Razor Leaf eventually, and since it must learn Razor Leaf as a Weepinbell before evolving, we know that it probably knew it, he just hadn't used the move yet. So we are assuming that this Victory Bell comes with Razor Leaf already learned. For the battle with Blaine, we decided to go with our 4 Pokemon against his Weezing, Meowth, Arbok, and Lickitung. With Weezing, Arbok, and Meowth, there's no real level cap anymore to go off of, so I'm trying to just keep them under the gym leader's ace. And then Lickitung probably should only be level 26 since it hasn't used Wrap yet, but it's hard to say if it had Wrap and just hadn't used it yet. Either way, we don't even use Lickitung in this battle, as you'll see. So we lead off with Weezing first and hit the Growlithe with a few Sludges. It gets poisoned and misses its Fire Blast, and then we try to take it out on the next turn before Blaine uses a Hyper Potion. I would honestly rather him use the Hyper Potions on Growlithe at the beginning anyways, because as you can see, we easily took it out with a couple more Sludges. It's pretty much the same deal with Ponyta, except Ponyta hits a Fire Blast, which does decent damage, but luckily we can take it out with another Sludge, and we're still above half health, so looking pretty good here. When the Rapidash comes in, it outspeeds us, and we just barely hang on it with 4 HP, and then luckily get the poison on it. For some reason, Blaine goes for a full heal instead of attacking us, and we get him into red. Unfortunately, he whips out another Hyper Potion, but we do get a couple sludges off thanks to him missing Fire Blast, and luckily we poison him again and get him into red health before Weezing is finally taken out. Next we send in Arbok, and Arbok can easily finish off Rapidash from here with an Acid, and that leaves only Arcanine remaining. So when Arcanine comes in, we decide our best bet is to go for the Glare. Unfortunately, he has the Intimidate, which doesn't help us, but Bite in this gen is special, so that does come in handy. So we get off the Paralyze, he hits us with a Fire Blast, which does incredible damage. So basically, at this point, we're just trying to get some Parahacks and flinches. So we hit a Bite, we get a crit, and then he misses. We hit another Bite and get a flinch, and pretty much just keeps going from here. Flinches and Parahacks, and eventually Blaine just ran out of Hyper Potions and takes the loss. So this battle took quite a few tries, but we finally got it done. Next up is Giovanni, and our team is pretty much the same. We got Lickitung up a little bit, but again, it should only be 26, but it doesn't really matter too much in this battle since it's way lower than everyone. So I accidentally started with Lickitung in this battle, so we decided to switch to Victory Bell and then quickly use a Razor Leaf. So we miss the first one, unfortunately. I think it's like a 5% chance, so we do take some heavy damage before knocking out the Rhyhorn in one hit. Next up, he's going to send in his Dugtrio, and for some reason I thought we could outspeed it or that it wouldn't kill us, but it knocks us out with an Earthquake. So there goes our Grass type against these Ground types, which sucks, but we go into Weezing and start to use Sludge. It doesn't look like it's going to be a 2-hit, but we get really lucky on the second one with the poison, and then he doesn't have a chance to heal. So next up is Nidoqueen, and it doesn't look like a great matchup, so we decide to go back into Lickitung and just try to get a Confusion off. At the very least, Lickitung can't do much damage, but we do at least get the Supersonic, and then she breaks through and hits us with an Earthquake to knock her out. Next up, we go into Arbok and we go for a Glare. So we hit the Glare, get her paralyzed, and we barely survive an Earthquake. So it leaves us with 3 HP, and we try to get a few flinches. We get some good damage, but then Arbok is taken out. So we decide to go back into Weezing, and the good thing about this is Weezing has Levitate, so they can't really hit with an Earthquake, and even though we can't damage her, she can't do much to us, so it's kind of a bit of a back and forth, and eventually we do get the better of this Nidoqueen as it's paralyzed and she just can't really touch us. So Giovanni does get a couple heals off, but we decide to just kind of speed through it and we take it out eventually. Last up is Nidoking, so I decided to switch into Meowth here just as a last ditch effort. It does take a Poison Sting and we can get a Screech off, but then it is immediately blown away by Earthquake. So it's up to Weezing to finish this off, and again, we don't have to worry about getting hit by Earthquake. So I don't know why it's going for Poison Sting since it does have Thrash, but a couple tackles and we do eventually take it out. So last up is just a Rhyhorn, and again, we can't get hit by Earthquake, but we can't do much damage to this thing either. So I try to go for Sludge just to get a Poison, even though Sludge isn't doing much, but I don't think Tackle would either. So getting the Poison was key in this part. Unfortunately, he does do a full heal, but we just keep mashing Sludge to try to get the Poison again, because I think that's the only real way we're going to take this out. Unluckily, he does have Rock Blast, but he doesn't really go for it as often, and we do have Smoke Screen, so we kind of lower his accuracy, and he keeps trying, but he just can't hit us. So eventually, the Poison kind of takes over, and we get the win, even though this one was really close, and we probably shouldn't have won first try. Next up, we've got our second last rival fight, and the only real difference is Lickitung is up to 36. It just can't be above 40 since it hadn't used Slam yet. So we start off with Weezing and kind of get to work with some poison. Luckily, we do poison the Pidgeot and escape with not much damage. So for the Alakazam, obviously we can't stay in. We switch into Lickitung, basically just hoping to confuse Alakazam and get Lickitung to take the future sight. So it does its job, and we get some damage off too, so we can't be too disappointed with Lickitung there. Next up, we go into Arbok, and we get kind of lucky here. So Arbok goes for a Glare, and Alakazam does end up getting stuck. So even though the Synchronize paralyzes us, we do cure it with the Shed Skin, and then Arbok can get an easy 2 hits with Acid to take it out. Next up, he sends in a Rhyhorn, so we switch to our Victory Bell, and we know we can one-shot this thing. We take a little bit of damage from Takedown, but nothing too bad, and we can take it out with a Razor Leaf. Next up is Charizard, and obviously Victory Bell doesn't want to handle that, so poor Meowth has to take a Fire Blast to the face and get obliterated. Arbok then comes in and goes for the Glare, and we're going to try this strategy where we use Glare and then Bite to try to get it stuck, and it works for a few moves but not too much, and we get taken out unfortunately. Weezing then comes in, and for some reason he goes for Scary Face, so 1, 2, and 3 sludges is going to be enough to take out the Charizard. Then he's got his Gyarados up next, so we get our attack lowered, which kind of sucks, but we decide to go for a Smoke Screen to lower his accuracy. But for some reason he's not really phased. I don't know, he missed 1 Hydro Pump there, but it seems like he hit way more than he should have. So Weezing goes down, and then Victory Bell's really our last hope here. So he keeps hitting his Hydro Pump somehow, but we do get him to sleep and then just start using Razor Leaf. It doesn't really do as much damage as I had hoped, but it looks like it's going to be a 4-hit kill. After the third one, it looks like we aren't quite going to kill him, but then we get a really lucky crit to finish him off. So last up is Execute, and it's not quite over, but Execute misses a Stun Spore, which is great, and then we can finish it off with a second Acid for the win. So this took a couple tries, but overall, not too bad of a battle for us. It's finally time for the Elite Four, and our team is leveled up quite a bit because there's not really a level cap, and we get pretty lucky on this attempt. So our first Razor Leaf with Victory Bell does one shot with a crit, and it also does it to the Slowbro. So this wasn't my first attempt, but this one definitely went really well. So when the Lapras comes in, we decide to put it to sleep since it has Ice Beam, and we don't get a crit on that one, and we are able to survive an Ice Beam with 1 hit. So we can't get our third crit though, and the Lapras does eventually take us out. So Victory Bell did some decent work there. Next up we go into Weezing, and it uses its berry to heal up a little bit. We go for a Sludge, but it's not quite enough. So they do confuse us and then go ahead to use a full restore. So we are confused, but Weezing doesn't really seem to care, and we just start going for the accuracy lowering. And then it does pay off a little bit because Lapras misses, and even though we do get confused again, Weezing doesn't seem to care. He breaks through on the first one and then gets the poison and then snaps out of it on the second one. So Lapras is down, we're looking good. Cloyster comes in, and I probably should have switched earlier, but I decided to set up a few smoke screens here. I didn't realize that Cloyster is just really annoying. It doesn't actually have a lot for damaging, but it likes to set up hail and spikes and all that stuff. So I probably could have switched sooner, but we do end up going into Meowth just to kind of give it some light in this battle. It's looking good on our side, and so I think Meowth can kind of deal with this thing. But this takes a long time. So Cloyster just keeps spamming Protect and Hail. Meowth is going for Bite, and we do start to hit it, and it does a decent amount of damage, but we're getting hit by Hail pretty much every turn, and then it dives every other turn. So there's just a lot of turns happening in between where there's not much damage happening and stuff. So we finally do end up getting the Cloyster down into red health. And of course she decides to use a full restore. So we kind of go through all that again. I sped it up a little bit so we don't have to watch it all quite again, but we do get her into low health, and Meowth finally takes a dive and then gets pelted by the hail to finish him off. So he did some good work, but couldn't quite do it. So Arbok comes in, takes a little bit of damage, and then 1 bite is enough to knock it out. So we're looking really good here. Her last Pokemon is Jinx, and we still have 3. So Arbok goes for a Glare, which does hit. but we get really unlucky here. So Jinx hits us with an ice punch and we do get frozen, although right away our shed skin cures it. So we have some good damage on Jinx, but then ice punch is enough to take us out. But no worries, Wheezing can come in, and since she's paralyzed, we hit one more sludge and take her out. So this ended up fairly close actually, but we managed to scrape by and we're on to the next one. Next up is Bruno, and this one is fairly easy because poison types have a decent advantage against fighting. They can't really hit us that hard even though we don't have the best moves. So for Onyx, obviously we lead in with Victory Bell, one shot it with a Razor Leaf, so no problem there. Then he sends out a Hitmonchan, so we go to Lickitung to kind of just take a hit and get a free switch. Lickitung can't really do much here, so it gets obliterated, and then we go into Arbok. So we go for the Glare, and then we just try to use Acid a bunch of times. Bite isn't going to do a lot of damage here, so it's not really worth it to go for the flinch. So we do get it to pretty low health, but then he does go for the heal, so we kind of have to restart and do it all over again. And we get pretty unlucky here, so we do actually get a crit and knock it down pretty good, but then he decides to use Counter and then Mach Punch, so surprisingly knocks us out. But then we go into Wheezing and we can finish it off with a Sludge. Then he goes into Hitmonlee, who can't really touch us either, so we use a Sludge and we get the poison. Didn't really matter, we can easily take a Mega Kick and knock out the Hitmonlee as well. Then he goes into Onyx, so we switch back into Victory Bell to take care of that with one Razor Leaf, just like last time. And then his final Pokemon is going to be Machamp, so we don't really need Victory Bell for anything else, so we might as well stay in. We decide to put it to sleep, and this time it actually stays asleep for quite a long time. Usually we don't get very lucky with that. So we get some damage on with Acid. It's taking a long time because Acid's not the best move, but eventually he does wake up and he just can't really hit us with anything. So he goes for Scary Face, and even Cross Chop barely does anything. So we do eventually get the crit Acid and finish him off, and then take a pretty easy win for this one. Next up is Agatha, and this battle is a little bit more difficult, but we do have some super effective moves. So we start off with Meowth, who can actually do something in this battle for once, and he does a decent amount of damage with Bite. The only problem is the Gengar loves to spam Double Team and Confuse Ray, and we can't really avoid getting her in the heal range, so Meowth does some decent work, but she does heal, and her evasiveness is just way too high at this point. So Meowth does eventually succumb to the status, but I think it did a decent amount of work here. Then we go into Victory Bell, and this is just really unfortunate since Gengar might be in range to kill with the Razor Leaf, but we just can't break through. We get confused, we keep hitting ourselves, and we miss, and then Victory Bell is dead. So the battle's not going well, but Arbok can come in and finish with Bite, and then easily take care of the Haunter with 2 bites in a row. So Arbok does quite a bit of damage here, and we get super lucky with flinches, so we even get the Gengar in red health, and then it can't really touch us too much. Then she's got a Golbat, so we know this is going to be a little more annoying. We try to get the Para and just go for flinches, but we don't want to deal with the confusion, so we switch into Wheezing, and we decide our best bet is just to lower the accuracy completely. So I think I go for all 6 smoke screens, get its accuracy as low as possible, and then just try to slowly whittle away at its health. And I'm not really sure what its chances of hitting a move are at this point, but it seems like it happens way too often for something that's been smoke screened 6 times. So we go back into Arbok, we use a Bite a couple times, she does end up healing. So we reapply the paralysis, we set up the wrap again, but somehow this air cutter keeps hitting. I don't understand how it's hitting so many times, but Arbok ends up getting defeated there. So Lickitung is going to come in here and actually do a little bit of work. Since Golbat is paralyzed, we get the speed advantage, and then it tries to confuse us, but we have our nice ability. So Lickitung does get a knockout, but then Arbok finishes it off with Sludge Bomb. So it's down to Wheezing versus Arbok, and again, our best bet here is a smoke screen 6 times. For some reason it keeps using Iron Tail, which has a low accuracy anyways. So it does hit Iron Tail a few times, surprisingly, but we just go for Tackle and Sludge, slowly chipping away, and we actually do survive a final Iron Tail with 4 health and then take it out. So this is a really close battle, but we get it done. Next up is Lance, one of the hardest battles of the run, so we decided to lead off with Lickitung here to take the Intimidate and get the Confuse off, so Lickitung does its job, and then basically we're going to switch into Weezing here. So Weezing is going to get hit by a Hyper Beam, but then he has to recharge, so we hit him with Sludge a few times, he gets hit with the Confusion and the Poison, so we avoid the heal. Then he's got Aerodactyl, so we hit him with Smokescreen a couple times before switching into Arbok. So Arbok's strategy of Glare and Bite works pretty well here. We get him paralyzed and then get him all the way into red health. Unfortunately, he does use full restore, but we kind of restart the process and do it again. And for some reason, these Pokemon love to use Scary Face. I don't know why they insist on doing it, but we don't really take too much damage and we do end up knocking it out. Next up is his hardest Pokemon, Dragonite, so we decided to switch into Lickitung just to take a hit and get a free switch, and it was nice that he used Hyper Beam because then we can get a free move off. So Meowth uses Screech to lower its defense, and then we think about switching, but we decide it's best just to get some damage, and then Dragonite takes us out. So Weezing then comes in, and Sludge is doing a really good amount of damage, but unfortunately we get taken out by Outrage, and then Arbok comes in, and he can't quite finish with Acid from here. We do take an Outrage, but then we can kill it on the next turn. Then he's got 2 Dragonairs left, so Acid is not going to be able to do much, and then it's down to just Victory Bell. So our only hope here is to put these Dragonairs to sleep and use Acid. So we do that on the first one. It does wake up and hit us with a Hyper Beam, but we can take it out with about half our health remaining. Second one, same deal. Put it to sleep and use Acid a few times. It doesn't wake up and it looks like we're not going to kill it, but we get a crit on the final one, and just like that, Lance is defeated. And we're on the final fight of the run. This one took a lot of tries. It was definitely the hardest battle of the whole run. So we lead off with Weezing and go for Sludge a few times. He does end up using a full restore, but better the Pidgeot than some of the other Pokemon, so we take it out without taking too much damage. The Alakazam from previous experience uses Future Sight no matter what. So I hit him with Sludge, get him low, and then switch to Meowth. Unfortunately, I realized I should have stayed in because he used Future Sight again, but Meowth can take him out. And then when Exeggutor comes in, Meowth gets taken out by Future Sight. So no big deal. We go into Weezing again, and Sludge looks like it's going to be a 2-shot, but it puts us to sleep and we can't really wake up too fast. So we take a good amount of damage before finally taking it out. Then he goes into Rhydon, and we do want to get Victory Bell out there, but we don't want to take a big hit, so we do end up deciding to send him in, and luckily he doesn't hit us, but then our speed is too low, so he does get another hit and take a lot of damage off us, but we can one-shot him with Razor Leaf. Then we don't want to face a Charizard, so Lickitung is going to come in one final time and basically just be fodder for the next Pokemon to come in. Arbok is going to then go in, and we're just going to try to paralyze this thing and use Bite like we normally do. So that works a little bit. We can get a flinch or two. It is going to hit us with Fire Blast, which does a lot of damage, and it heals a little bit with a Citrus Berry, but we can get it pretty low before finally it takes us out. At this point, Weezing can come in and finish it off, and then it's only down to Gyarados. So Weezing uses Smokescreen, and we get really lucky here. He misses 2 Hydro Pumps and we get the Poison. So he does hit the final one, but then Victory Bell can kind of come in and clean up with Razor Leaf, and he takes the Poison for the final fall. So we do end up beating the champion. And I did have to level up my Pokemon a decent amount for that battle. It took a ton of tries, but honestly the rest of the run wasn't too bad. Like, we didn't really struggle with too many areas. Other than even the final fight, none of the Elite Four gave us huge problems, so I think this went pretty well. So you can see our final team on screen. Should be fairly anime accurate. Like, the levels are really hard to say after kind of the 7th and 8th gym, so we just did our best. We kept Lickitung under level 40 because it hadn't learned Slam, but I think overall it was a pretty good team. So funny enough, this video was supposed to come out like a year ago, but I wasn't quite finished it before I went on my long trip, and I was gone for like 3 weeks, and then I totally forgot about it somehow. So recently kind of found the video file, and I was like, wow, I was almost done this video and I just never posted it. So we finished it up, got it posted for you guys, so I hope you enjoy it. I spend a lot of time and effort on this video. You know, the researching and all that stuff, it takes a long time. I do enjoy doing it, obviously, But it would really be appreciated if you liked the video, if you let me know in the comments what you think of this type of content, and if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So if you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys next time.